the first hour between 2 and 3 will be just the presentations, and we'll be recording that, and that's going to be uploaded. The second part is not going to be recorded, and everybody can have conversations freely, and just it stays within that room. And then I'm going to ask people from each group to make just a quick reflection about the discussions in those groups, and then we can all close and go home. But I'm really, really delighted for us to be doing this, even if it would have been lovely to see you all in person. It's actually great to be able to do this online. And just so you know, we're going to have the big event in June, and I'm hoping that the 100 people that signed up for this event will also be able to join us in June. So with that, I am going to share my screen and give it up for Jerry Miller. Jerry, that's yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Augustina. Can everyone hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, look, my name's Jerry Miller. I've been involved in regeneration with private sector, housing executive, Belfast City Council for about nearly 40 years. I packed all that in, but I have a number of connections with Sailortown. So Terry asked me to give you a quick overview of regeneration. And as I say, the Sailortown Symposium, I think that's a great name. It sounds like somewhere you could get a tattoo, cocktail, and maybe Shanghai all on the same night. But anyway, it's not about that. It's about the future regeneration of Sailortown. And as Augustina has said, you'll hear from her, Terry, and a number of others on your research, findings and plans for the future. And I think that focus on the future is an important message, because nostalgia is very good and it provides you with roots. But if you want to grow and regrow, you actually have to look to the future. And it reminds me of and this will come out later on, I think, of a quote from 1984, the novel by George Orwell. So whoever controls the past controls the future, but whoever controls the present controls the past. Just something for you to think about. So as I say, I've been involved in regeneration for a long time in a number of different roles, and I've seen and done a number of projects and other stuff, some of which has been very good, some of which has been very good. None of it has ever been perfect, because in regeneration, you're trying to align economic, social, physical, environmental benefits and improve the quality of life. And it's not that easy. It's easy on theory, and if you read the handbook on urban regeneration, it'll tell you all this, but it does make the point. These are not that simple to line up for all sorts of reasons. So really, I mean, in the 1980s, housing was the main regeneration focus. And again, it had some good things like housing action areas. I was involved in those, kept the communities together before we eventually demolished the buildings. But it was opposed to a bigger, large-scale development, which had happened earlier, like on the Shankill. In the 1990s, regeneration got a big boost in Belfast because we had ceasefires. We had the Laganside Development Corporation, who again did a lot of good work in tidying up the waterfront and building Lanyon Place and so on. But the downside was it had a very strict red line around it, and local communities, inner city communities, were excluded. Moving on to the sort of 2000s, DSD took on the regeneration mantle for the city, but they tended to run into a whole series of master plans, many of which great master plans didn't have resources attached. So they ended up sitting on shelves and desks. Belfast City Council was beginning to get its act together at the same time, and it picked up a quote from an architect who had been involved in regenerating Barcelona, which was that projects change cities, not plans. And they launched an investment program of projects. And again, some of that has been good in terms of local communities, like the local investment program. And again, some money from that went to St. Joseph's. That's sort of been carried on now with the Executive Office and Urban Villages. So again, we're beginning to get there, and the community are still not totally involved, and that's why I'm not sure, I can't see the screen, but I have a slide up there with the key principles of placemaking on it, the first of which is about the community knows best, as it were. So as I say, regeneration does work best when it can align with other mainstream programs like education, transport, private sector investment. And in Sailortown, you're surrounded by a number of huge projects, such as the university, the interchange, city quays, student housing, potentially the new glider route, and so on. So to get successful regeneration to happen in the middle of all of this does need some manipulation of both the political and legal strings on which a lot of these projects are directed. And again, a number of communities across the city are beginning to understand this and are beginning to play a part. So for example, in the markets, you have the Sunshine Not Skyscrapers campaign. In Sandy Row and Grosvenor Road, there's a bit of an activity going on in regard to the transport hub and how the existing station might or might not be developed and so on. And again, there's an opportunity here for Sailortown and other communities to learn from each other. So as I say, the reason I just put the placemaking principles slide up, and you can look into these in more detail as the backdrop, is basically to reinforce that point that the community knows best principle. And hopefully after listening to our speakers, that will engender a number of ideas, how best to articulate that. So with that, I'm happy now to pass on to Terry Agustina. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Thanks for that. It's really good. It's amazing how you can put all of that history of Belfast planning in a nutshell. And it's a very complex thing, but thank you very much. And indeed, placemaking is a bit of a contested term, but it can be really useful in many contexts. So thank you so much, Jerry, for coming and joining us today. What I'm going to do in my introduction, which was scheduled for now, is I would like everybody to say their names. If you open the people list on the side, I would like, because there's many of you that I actually don't know, and I think I was very aware of about half the people that signed up, but if everybody can just say their name and affiliation in the next 5 minutes, that would be great. So we start with Ashlee.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashlee Madden. I was a student of Agustina's for the last 2 years, working based in Cellular.
Alice McClone.
Hello, I'm Alice McClone. I work at Belfast City Council. I previously worked in the city centre team, which is when I became aware of the project in Sailortown. I've since moved on to West Belfast, but still with the council.
Alyssa.
Hi everybody, my name is Alyssa Pleist. I'm a curator and I'm one of the co-directors of Households and will be presenting today.
Alison.
Yes, hi, I'm Alison Dowling from Belfast Harbour. So I'm not purposefully incognito with my name not properly on the thing, but I can't get my system to let me put my full name on. So Alison Dowling, and it's great to see so many on this today. So looking forward to the next hour or so.
Andrew Grounds, please. Andrew.
Sorry. Hi, my name's Andrew Grounds. I'm here from Queen's University. I have an interest in urban regeneration, social economics and community planning.
Rona Hughes.
Hi everyone, my name is Brona. I am here on behalf of McCollum Conservation. I came kind of into the middle of the project whenever Chris was advising and redeveloping Sailortown. So I do have a strong interest in what you are currently trying to do.
Great, thank you. Callie.
Hi everybody, I'm Callie Persic. I work in the City Regeneration and Development team in Belfast City Council. And Augustina, I think this is our 3rd year working together on this project, so I can't wait to see the results. Thanks everybody.
Chloe.
Hiya, I'm Chloe and I'm a master's planning student at Queen's University, and I'm currently doing a Sailortown Regeneration project as part of my master's.
Thank you. Kira. Kira? Kira, okay. Kira Hickey is also part of household. I don't know if she's here right now. Next, Claire Hall.
Hello. Hi. Hi, I'm Claire Hall. I'm here on behalf of Urban Scale Interventions. We're particularly interested because we're currently being engaged by the Belfast City Council, the Harbour and Titanic Foundation to look at the Belfast Maritime Festival 5-year strategy. So Sailortown plays a big role in that. So yeah, thanks for having me today.
Thank you. David Boyd.
Hello, David Boyd, Beach Carnival Arts Organisation.
Thanks, David. Etna? Am I pronouncing that right? I'm so sorry.
It's Etna.
Etna?
Yeah, I'm studying a master's in planning at Queen's, and I'm also working on the same project as Chloe in urban regeneration.
Very good. Eleanor? Eleanor Carson? Can I ask the others to please turn their mics off while people are talking? Thank you. Eleanor. Next, Federica.
Hello, hope you can hear me well. I'm Federica and I've been teaching ethnographic methods to Agustina students for this project.
Thank you very much, Federica. Jerry, we know you. You just introduced yourself. Gregory?
Hello, sorry I'm a wee bit late getting in here this afternoon. Sorry, my name is Gregory Reed. I'm representing the Department for Communities this afternoon. I work in the Belfast Regeneration Directorate. So I'm really looking forward to the event. I've tried to read up as much as I can over the past couple of days. I'm looking forward to seeing what things the students have found for us.
Thank you very much, Gregory. Good to have you here. Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, is everybody speaking?
Everybody's just introducing themselves. Yes, we're kind of halfway.
Okay, I'm
just very
briefly from Queen's University Belfast, also from architecture like Agustina.
Hannah Skimmon.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Skimmon. I was a student of Augustina's last year at Queen's University and the studio group StreetSpace, and I'm currently undertaking my final year of Masters at Queen's.
Thank you. Harry?
Hi, yeah, I'm a Masters student at Queen's as well, and I'm doing the same project as Chloe and Etna.
Great, thank you, Harry. Jane?
Hi, I'm Jane Butler. I'm co-director of Household and will be presenting today as well. I'm also a visual artist with interests in the urban and built environment in the public realm. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Joanna? We can't hear Joanna. Okay, John Eversley. Thanks for coming, John.
Oh, thank you. John Eversley, I'm here because I work at Queen's. I teach on the Leadership for Sustainable Development Masters, and one of the things we do with the students is to try to teach them project management skills, and we let them loose in Sailortown to try and come up with sustainable regeneration projects.
Great, thank you. Johnny?
Hi everyone, I'm Johnny and I recently graduated from my Masters in Architecture at Queen's University, studied StreetSpace for 2 years and now working at my Mass Architects.
Judith? Judith Webb?
Yeah. Hi, I'm from Titanic Foundation Limited. I'm a fairly recent recruit to the organisation, but very keen to hear and learn about the Sailortown this afternoon, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Juliet?
I'm Juliet and I was part of Augustina's studio group last year, and I'm in my final year of Masters at Queen's as well now.
Thank you, Juliet. Khadija?
Hello everybody, I'm Khadija. I work with Claire and at Urban Scale Intervention. We work on several projects with public and private organizations on placemaking and co-designing. Thank you.
Thank you, Khadija. Laura?
Yeah, so hi guys, my name's Laura. I work at Urban Skill Interventions and I'm an old student of Augustina's.
Leslie? Leslie Cherry? Okay, next. Hi. Sorry. There you are. Yeah.
My name is Leslie Cherry. I am currently managing the Making the Future project for the Lindenhall Library in partnership with Ulster Museums and Prony, and also a socially engaged artist, and have been commissioned by Department of Justice and worked with a lot of interface areas over the past 10 to 15 years.
Great, thanks for coming, Leslie. Lorna?
Hi everyone, my name is Lorna Mccartney. Nice to meet you all. I was a student of Augustina's for 2 years in StreetSpace at Queen's. I am currently seeking employment for my part-time.
Thank you. Mal?
Hi everybody, my name is Maliki O'Hara. I'm Green Party Councillor for the Castle District Electoral Area, which includes Sailortown, and my parents occupied the church twice during the noughties to help keep it in community use. So I have some personal vested interest in this as well.
Great, thank you very much, Mal. Margaret?
Sorry. Hi, my name is Margaret Higgins. I work in Belfast City Council in our City and Neighbourhood Services Department, and I have responsibility for North Belfast, so I'm really excited to hear about the students' ideas today.
Great, thank you very much, Margaret. Martin?
Hi everyone, I'm Martin O'Neill. I work in the City Regeneration and Development section of Belfast City Council with Callie. I'm really looking forward to hear more about the Sailortown ideas today. And just to say that my colleague Richard Griffin will be joining us shortly.
Great, thank you. Maureen?
Hello everyone. I'm Maureen McKinney, Vice Chair of the Belfast Titanic Society. In addition to the interest of Titanic, the Society and I personally have a keen interest in the history of Belfast shipbuilding, and I'm keen to hear how any regeneration will incorporate the maritime heritage of the Sailortown area. And I've got to know Terry McKeown quite well over the last while, so I'm looking forward to hearing her.
Very good, thank you very much. Orla? Can't hear. Paul Beatty. Sorry.
Not even close. Beatty will do. I'm Paul Beatty. I look after regeneration and town and village renewal in the very urban environments of Causeway Coast and Glens. Been following this project on social media now for the past wee while, and just here to learn some more. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Richard?
Hi everyone, my name is Richard Waldron. I'm a lecturer in planning in Queen's University Belfast. I also teach on the property development module on our master's programme. So some of my students who are on here are undertaking project work down in Sailortown at the moment.
Brilliant, thank you, Richard. Rita?
Hi there, I'm the Northern Ireland Support Officer for the Architectural Heritage Fund, and we're the leading social investor in heritage across the UK, been around for about 40 years. And we basically aim to work with communities to find sustainable uses based on core community needs. And we've grant aided the organisation with Viability Grant to look at the parochial house alongside, and looking forward to helping with additional potential development funding that target, say, those sustainable uses.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Rita. We're actually a little bit behind, so just name and affiliation, please, Sabine.
Hi, I'm Sabine Kalke. I work for Belfast City Council in the Physical Programs Department. That was Jerry's kind of old department, and I've been involved in a couple of projects with Terry already, and I will in the future as well.
Brilliant, thank you. Sarah?
Hi, my name's Sarah Lewis, and I am one of the Regeneration Project Officers with Belfast City Council in the City Regeneration team.
Brilliant, thank you. Sean?
Hi everyone, my name is Sean Greer and I am a member of Household.
Thank you. Susan, please.
Hello, I'm Susan Picken. I'm Director of the Cathedral Quarter Trust in Culture Night Belfast and suppose neighbours to Sailortown.
Thanks. Terry, you can introduce yourself fully afterwards. Thomas?
Hi folks, I'm Thomas. I'm one of Agostina's PhD students and I also work for StreetSpace.
Brilliant. Last two. Another Thomas Wells?
Yep, hello, I'm Thomas. I'm a visual artist based in Belfast. I've been working with Household down in Cedartown for the past kind of year.
Brilliant, thank you. And last one, William Beggs.
Hello, I'm Billy. I'm an ex-resident of Sailortown, a founding member of Sailortown Cultural and Historical Society back in 1998.
Thanks, Billy. Thank you very much for joining us. We have another set of residents, I think, that are now in the church with Terry, and I welcome them very much. So without further ado, thank you all so much for introducing themselves. This is something I always do in our workshops so that we have a sense of who are the people that we're going to be working with, and hopefully many of you will be able to join us in June. Terry, do you want to share your screen, please?
Okay.
If everybody...
Okay, are we getting that?
Yes, Terry.
Yes.
If you can do a full screen, that'd be
okay. So I'm just getting it up here. So can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, we can, yeah.
Yeah.
Go. Okay. Sorry, this is very nerve-wracking.
It's working, Terry. No worries, it's working.
No worries, yeah.
Okay, okay, so you can see my screen now, and it just has Sailortown Symposium on the top of it, Jip?
Yes, yes.
Right. Okay, I'll make a start. So I'd like to welcome you all to Sailortown, and it's the first time I think we've had a symposium in St. Joseph's Church. So just a wee explanation for people who don't understand what symposium is. In ancient Greece, the symposium was the after-banquet talking session. Drinking music was also involved, along with discussion of pressing matters of the day. So we want lots of all that in Sailortown, and you can see our website linked just below, sailortownregeneration.com. Okay, Cedartown is the docks area of Belfast. It was a waterfront village teeming with life, and 5,000 people lived here until the 1960s. You can see in this first picture children playing in the streets and the old houses. You can see in the next one outside the American bar, dockers, casual labour waiting to be picked up by basically subbies to take into work in the docks for a day's work. This one here is everybody really that came to Belfast before when flying was too expensive. So this is the circus coming to town, coming down Garmoil Street. You can see the elephants in that one. So there was a huge excitement in Cedartown all the time. This fourth one shows the church in its heyday, 1954, the Marian year. And if you look at the children in that who have just made their first communion, you'll see that each one of those children will come from a family of anything from 4 up to 16, even up to 22. So you can imagine how many people lived in Sailortown at that time. So this is what Sailortown looked like back then. The one on the left is looking towards the Lagan. You can see all the houses, the warehouses and all the wee streets. The one on the right is a map. So you can see the red are where the houses were and the yellow are the streets. You can see it's laid out in a grid system, but those are all the houses. And then a motorway was brought in, and this is it here. So this is what it looks like today, courtesy of Declan, whose mummy and sister are here today. So you can see the motorway coming all the way around there. The bits of derelict land just at the curve of the motorway, you can see those bits of derelict land on either side, and that's where the houses used to be. We actually have a really nice song which Davy composed about that. So there's always been a fantastic community spirit in Sailortown. In 1907, you can see the dock strike here. This is Custom House Square, thousands of men on strike. This one here is in 1977, taken from the BBC Recent Archive. And the signs in this are fantastic. It's a crowd of women. You probably can't read them, but one of them says, "Born in Sailortown, bred in Sailortown, will die in Sailortown." Another one says, "Housing need now." This one is from the 1991 church campaign when the bishop closed the church and people were locked in the street. So Father Diaz came down and held mass for them on the steps, and they still say their prayers here. The lockdown was the only thing that stopped them in the last 20 years. This picture here is a more recent protest picture, and this is courtesy of Sheila from Household. And these are our children who we run a Tuesday club with, and they are protesting outside because they want to get in and use the church. So we want to bring life back to the old streets. This is Pilot Street in the 1960s. You can see the old Belfast way of playing a rope round a lamppost. Well, we would say we don't even have a rope round a lamppost down in Sailortown now. This is from the Rotterdam events. Rotterdam Pat's Bar ran a series of events back in 2010. You can see that one, where they used Barrow Square for a series of events. This one is fire eaters, somersaults, there was children, families. It was a great time to be around Sailortown. This one here is from Pilot Street. Just about a month ago during lockdown, we put a table out in the street, and the children made kites that day, and you can just see them running down the street with their kites. Like I said, the children have to play on the streets here. So we've made a start in bringing life back with St. Joseph's Church. It was built in 1880. There's a wedding. Here's a wedding taking place in 1954. It was closed in 2001. Sailortown Regeneration negotiated a lease in 2017, and you can see in this picture the state of the place. I mean, there were huge holes in the roof, water running down the walls, trees growing out of it. It was literally packed full of pigeons. We got some emergency repairs done, and now thanks to particularly the big lottery and the Historic Environments Division, this is what the church looks like now. So we got a recent grant from the council there, and you can see we've now got lovely bean bags, we've got a grass floor, and the kids absolutely love it. So hopefully once this phase of a lockdown in, we'll be able to start running events and activities. But for Sailortown to thrive, it's not just about a church and an event space and an activity space, it's about being connected back into its surrounding areas. So the first map here shows you St. Joseph's Church. Dotted lines bring you down into the Big Fish, into the centre of town. Another one going up to Yorkgate Station. It is literally 3 minutes walk to Yorkgate Station, about 5 minutes walk to the Big Fish and to the University of Ulster. And you can see the picture on the right here, the satellite image. What we would like is to have a bridge across there from Cedartown going across to Titanic. We think that would complete the Maritime Mile. It would get more people out cycling and walking, and it would be a game changer for North Belfast, and that people would be able to access East Belfast very easily. So this one here is capital projects which are going on around us, because things people have said to us in the past is that who's going to give you a load of money to restore an old church? So we're looking at the amount of money that's been spent around us. Now this was done a couple of years ago, and these figures have probably substantially increased. York Street Interchange, 165 million. UU Campus, 250 million. City Quays, 250 million, and Titanic Museum, 100 million. You can see how much money, hundreds of millions of pounds, are being spent around us. So these are the plans which are currently in place for Belfast, which we find tend to be done piecemeal. We would like that they would be tied in together and bring some life back to Sailortown. So the Clarendon-Sailortown Master Plan is about improving transport connections, promoting employment and housing opportunities, which is very important given the lack of social housing in North Belfast. Belfast Healthy Cities, again, people-focused environments, healthy places, healthy children, resilient communities. The Local Development Plan, growth for well-being of community, land, meet need, and very especially all to have a say in local development. Local people need to have a say in what happens in their areas. City Centre Regeneration and Investment Strategy, innovation and digital. We're in badly need of digital connections down here. Boosting tourism and infrastructure. Tourists will love it once we get this place up and going, but really we're focusing on local people. Employability and skills, again, our young people need all that. Okay, so in terms of regeneration, here's some quick wins for Sailortown. So this is where our office is, and those 4 houses there are the last remaining houses in Cedartown. One of them is derelict. We did try to get them listed at one stage, but it didn't work. But basically, there's something could be done to bring those houses back. This is Princess Dock Street at Pat's Bar. You can see the cobblestones there, the remnants of the past. That bar has been closed for 10 years actually. Pilot Street, the Rotterdam bars at the end of this. These are Princess Dock Street and Pilot Street at Pat's Bar and the Rotterdam are 2 places where parklets could be put in. And again, Dock Street outside the American and McKenna's, which are beginning to pick up a real vibe about them. We'd like a parklet in there, extend the footpath out to the road, put in some planting. It would be a nice gateway to Cedartown. So our objectives are decent housing with family homes, local shops. People here have to cross 7 sets of pedestrian lights through heavy traffic to get to the first nearest shop and to school. Gentle density and of course use of vacant sites, of which there are lots in Cedartown. In terms of culture, we have a venue space. We want to bring festivals. We want to use our outdoor spaces, and we particularly want to celebrate local heritage. And children need play areas. We already have a club going. We want to expand that. Street activities. Children need room to grow. We want to bring that to them down in Cedartown. And then in terms of public space mobility, we need safe walkable streets. The streets are not good at the minute. We need pedestrianisation. We'd like some of the streets are only used for parking down here. There's loads of car parks. We could do away with a lot of them. Affordable public transport, not just public transport, but affordable if you want to take people out of their cars. And quality public realm. So we're asking that Sailortown be designated as a special interest area. We'd like to create a greenway created from the Waterworks Park coming down Duncairn and Limestone down to the Lagan and then across the bridge to the Titanic. We think that would really connect up north and east of Belfast. To improve the walking routes from the University of Ulster and Cathedral Quarter, particularly to Yorkgate Station. Build a footbridge from Titanic to Sailortown. I know it's a big ask, but we've seen this being done in the docks area in Glasgow and Govan. And invest in people and community-led collaboration again, which is very important. So these are some of the things we've had so far. So this is Sailortown coming to life again. The first picture here is a Cathedral Quarter event. It was a John Prine tribute night, and you can see they're standing room only. This one here was a walk we did with Moving On Music. We stopped at various locations along the way, like Sinclair Presbyterian, the Dockers, Barrow Square, and we had musicians in situ. And you can see in that picture the Lagan and the view of the Titanic and the cranes in the background. There was a huge attendance and that huge interest in it. This one here is Bastille Day this year during lockdown. We basically had an event in the street. We decorated the church and Pat's Bar and the whole street with flags for the 14th of July to show the international flavour of Sailortown. People from Sailortown went all around the world, so we put flags up to commemorate that. This is the May procession in the Maritime Festival last year. It was the first year that the procession could come into the church in 20 years, and this is a band that comes down from the Glens of Antrim to play for them as they walk around the docks. And this here again goes back to the Rotterdam Pat's Bar events. I think it maybe about 2010, where there were music events down in Barrow Square and around the docks. And finally, you can see our beautiful stained glass window there on the right. But we'd like to acknowledge those who have helped us over the years. It's been a long, hard struggle, particularly for the ex-residents of Sailortown who've been fighting this for nearly 50 years. But they kept their community alive. The National Lottery Community Fund, of course, who stepped in to help us. And of course the team at DFC Historic Buildings, especially Manus and Janice, who have been great help to us. And of course Agostina's hardworking Queen's University architecture students, especially Ashlee, who did the lovely book for Billy, because Billy was one of our main volunteers and died quite tragically quite recently, and Ashlee did a lovely book for him. We really appreciate it. So that's us. That's a view of the docks of St. Joseph's. Back when the sailing ships were still there, and we have again our website, and that gives us all our contact details on there. So that's us.
That's
I'll just
brilliant.
finish.
Thank you so much, Terry.
Okay.
Really appreciate it. That was really clear and very moving sometimes. So Household, Alyssa, are you going to be sharing your screen?
Yes, I'm going to do that now.
Terry, if you want to turn off the microphone for the echo, thank you. Great, thanks. We're a little bit behind, but it's okay to go over a bit, about 5 minutes, and then have 40 minutes for the discussions in the groups. That should be okay.
Okay, so we're going to do this presentation with 3 of us. So bear with us while we kind of navigate this. So Sean's going to begin. Sean?
Sean, are you muted?
Yes, sorry, just technical glitch there. Sorry, guys, apologies. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. We, as Alyssa says, we are Household. We're an arts organisation that is collectively run and works with artists, communities, and the city of Belfast, where we live. As you can see on the slide on your screen at the moment, our values and what we hold important to us, what's important to us is that we support artists to make high quality artworks. We value relationships, very much so, value relationships with people, and also relationships with the places where we work. And we encourage and support and create connections and collaborations in everything that we do. We value people, as we said, we value people above everything. We pay our artists fairly and nurture these relationships. We listen to and learn from our communities and neighbourhoods. We create projects where there is a need, and we advocate for the cultural health of our city. Our past projects have involved activating spaces through working with artists and audiences. This has included organising 2 arts festivals in domestic spaces in South Belfast, using disused commercial spaces in the city centre for artist residences, and organising talks programmes, workshops and exhibitions in overlooked, unusual and non-art spaces across the city.
So this is an image that came up in can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes, Alyssa.
Yeah, okay. Okay, great. So this is obviously an image that came up in Terry's presentation as well. And I guess, so Sailortown Regeneration is an organisation we've been working with since 2017 when we started to work in Sailortown. So our work there has involved inviting artists and others to engage with the area's complex histories, stories and communities, and engaging with local communities of interest and place through organising art events. So we want to make space for artists to work and for people to engage with what they produce. We initially hosted some projects in Sailortown, including a screening at St. Joseph's on Culture Night 2017 via the BFI's Coast to Coast programme. And we've also invited various groups of students to respond to the neighbourhood, including fine arts students, through a purpose-designed student module taking place in different spaces in Sailortown, which culminated in an exhibition at the American Barra and Sailortown Regeneration offices. And so we continue to work both with fine art students at UU and with architecture students through StreetSpace at Queen's and the architecture department at UU as well. So our relationship with the StreetSpace project began in 2018 and continues to this day. So with them and Sailortown Regeneration, we have organised talks, workshops and events such as the Sailortown Community Day in 2019. So this event included the students, local residents who were able to exchange information and kind of share their stories and their kind of their opinions and ideas for the neighborhood, and visitors that could just drop by and come along. And the day included food prepared by Thomas Wells, who's here with us today as well. So what was important about this this way of working, and what is important, is about making space for residents to tell their stories and for them to be heard. Creating opportunities for emerging practitioners in the neighborhood and in our city, and creating new connections for and ways of looking at the neighborhood itself. So we began to work with artist Saul Archer in 2018, and he continues to be one of our artists in residence, as well as Sikum Chung, who we've started working with earlier on this year. So Saul works with intergenerational groups of people to remember and reanimate histories and reimagine the neighborhood's future. So, as well as documenting local stories, he's working on a film due to be completed and exhibited in 2001. And these are some images from the film that he's been making. So he's been visiting us every year for a few months during the summer, and has built up a really great relationship with intergenerational groups in the area. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to be with us this year because of COVID, but we've been working remotely with him and with the kids in the area to still see whether we can continue that relationship and the participation elements of this program. So what's really important to us is that long-term relationships with the community and the neighborhood are shaped and formed through the work that we commission. So we want to commission artwork that responds to people and place and explores the past, present, and future. And we want to create projects that that generate new communities of interest and place in the neighborhood and in our city in general. So Terry mentioned this earlier as well, but and this is this Sailortown Barra music trail. But this is part of a larger project called the Sailortown Barra, which was based on the stories of the kind of market days of old, where communities would gather together and exchange information, and acknowledging Sailortown as a site where these kinds of exchanges happened, but where now there is less opportunity for communities to gather. So this was a weekend-long series of events organized in partnership with Moving On Music, Sailortown Regeneration, local businesses, and funded through the Belfast City Council Small Grants Program. So, and of course, this included artists and other creative practitioners as well. So there was a tour through Sailortown of 8 different local venues with live music. There was a market day with stalls made by and manned by artists and people of all ages with a connection to the area, and talks, performances, and screenings, including a film made by Saul and the local young people. So events were hosted in this, which is an artwork by artist Paddy Bloomer. It's a temporary barn structure that can be constructed in different settings and can become a kind of impromptu community space. And here's some images of the kids watching their film. And we also invited different speakers down on the day. So Augustina actually spoke about her work in the kind of the barn. And this is a project by Infinity Farm, who are working with bees across the city and kind of looking at urban beekeeping. So you can see in this image, here's a stall made by the kids where they sold games and raised a substantial amount of money, which we then used to bring them to the Panto with. And they were quite impressed with the fact that people came to the event, that they were able to kind of make money, and they were very proud of the fact that they could then spend it later on another trip. At the top there is artist Brian Connolly, who was selling parts of the world at his stall, and you can just see in the bottom that various kind of local residents and local groups such as SHIP and others had stalls at this event and were selling and advertising various things. So what was important to us here was that we responded to local histories and stories together with artists and other creative practitioners, that people were involved in this process. We ran a series of stall making workshops in advance, and local kids and young people helped to construct the stalls for some of the other groups. And that through this work, we were able to think in a different way about space in the neighborhood and about how we use our public space. So, so for instance, Barra Square, where the market was held, and as you could see from Terry's presentation, hosted various events over the years, but it had been a long time since something had been organized there. So this was an opportunity to temporarily do that.
Okay, thank you, Alyssa. I'll take over from now. So our work also involves working, I think it's been brought up a couple of times there, the kids of Sailortown, or as they are like to be known, the Snailortown kids. And we meet with them quite regularly to carry out workshops and kind of plan various events with them as well within the area. And as Alyssa mentioned there, we've been working with Saul. And Saul had produced a film with the kids as well, a horror film that actually led to one of the kids suggesting that we should use St. Joseph's Church to host a Halloween haunted house. And in the run up to the haunted house, we carried out special effects workshops with artists and industry professionals at the Clonmel housing offices. This whole event was an interactive haunted house experience that local people could attend, but also other people from across the city could book into. And it was manned by the 30 young people who took part in the whole overall event. And the theme was "The City Will Eat You Alive," which was kind of playfully exploring, I guess, the strangeness and the ever-changing kind of nature of the city as well. Yeah, fantastic. I guess the important takeaways from that project was that the project was designed and developed with the kids in the area. It's an important it's an important value of ours that any of the projects we carry out are kind of the residents or the people within the area take ownership of developing them. And yeah, as I said, the project allows for residents to take ownership of what happens within the area. And also it was a new approach to create collaborative and participatory projects that, yeah, was a lot of fun as well, of course. This is images of an exhibition titled Vibrant Matter from 2019, which was a group of Belfast-based artists, and it was part of the Science Festival. So it was great to draw new audiences down to St. Joseph's, where we explored contemporary art and science themes. The exhibition title actually came from a book by political theorist Jane Bennett, who considered how we're embedded in a web of mutual effect that doesn't distinguish between living and non-living, human and non-human. And a lot of the artists kind of undertook this research and carried out various workshops with the young people again within the area, inviting them to experience Sailortown through the eyes of a non-human. Again, this due to the fact that it was part of the Science Festival, it brought new audiences to Sailortown through different types of programming, which we kind of like to do with our programming. It's varied through different exhibitions or events. It also brought high quality contemporary art to the areas of the city that normally wouldn't have access to, so high quality within the actual area itself. And it created new and different spaces for artists to make work, and new and interesting spaces as well, out of kind of the white cube of the gallery. And we've also been working with artist Thomas Wells, who's on he's part of the symposium today as well, and he frequently uses food and the senses as a medium to which activate discussion about identity and relationships to access other times and places. Tom's worked with the Sailortown kids. Tom's also worked with some of the adult groups within the area as well. A lot of these workshops were held at the Mission to Seafarers, as you can see here, with Claire McQuillan as well, and in the apartments too. And we run a public event as well during the Maritime Mile Festival in 2019. Tom's also been working with the women from the Arts and Crafts group that meet at the Regeneration offices, and he had been working with them to discuss the politics of the dinner table and discussing with the women, looking at sharing wisdom and knowledge and memories of the area. And he's interested in listening to stories and gathering recipes and remedies and cures. And Tom has made a beautiful recipe book that is inspired by these the foods of Sailortown. And also the latest project Tom worked on was Pass the Baby Under the Donkey, which was an exhibition at St. Joseph's Church just last weekend past. It's actually an online exhibition on our website, so feel free to go on and check this out. And this was a response to these workshops Tom has been carrying out, and he's made a number of beautiful domestic objects in response to these stories and memories around food and around the dinner table. And we hope that we could host a dinner and invite members of the community down to participate in it, but unfortunately due to COVID we couldn't carry that out. But hopefully come springtime we will carry out a new event and invite everyone down for some food and stories. So again, the important takeaways through this project was that it was community focused workshops. We were also sharing and developing new skills through the food workshops and teaching new ways of working with people within the community. And the artwork is made by and for the people, and also most importantly inspired by the people that Tom meets.
Jane, I'm sorry, can we wrap up? We're running a little bit late. I'm going to try to make mine 10 minutes, but
okay, no problem. Just the last two projects are just ongoing projects at the minute. I'll give you a quick rundown of them. We are working with artist and musician Ruth Clinton. We've just announced a call to action on our website during the week. So if you want to get involved in a digital choir called the Shipyard Slips, again in response to the area, check out our website for how to participate in the project. And also next week we'll be publishing a beautiful text piece, again inspired by the Sailortown area by producer and writer Emily Didakis. You can check out our website for some snippets of that in the process. But there are two projects that are ongoing at the minute. But just to finish off, I guess working in Sailortown has involved looking at the past, present and potential futures of the area, and working with artists and partners and communities is of great value to us and meaningful, and would just like to thank everyone we've worked with who makes it possible for us to work in the area. And big thanks to Terry and Sailortown Regeneration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Thanks for that. And I'm sorry we're running late, but I hope you can bear with us. I think the starting 5 minutes, and everybody might be getting a message now to join the breakout groups, but we'll spend 10 more minutes in here, and then we can go into the breakout groups if that's okay with everybody. We can start the breakout groups slightly later. So let me just share my screen. You can let me know if you see this. Here we go. Is that okay? Sorry, not that one. There. Is that okay? Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've already welcomed everybody, and just to fill in those, mostly everybody will know what the StreetSpace project is, but what we try to do is involve different types of people in the process of understanding streets and in providing the best versions of them in terms of design and regeneration. And we do that in the form of design studios and workshops that are collaborative by nature and have very different types of people involved in them. One of the things that many of you might have heard from me already is the inspiration for this comes in one way from Rebecca Solnit's quote, "The magic of the street is the mingling of the errand and the epiphany." It's the place where everyday things happen, but also the place where we get inspired and where we have our memories and the sense of place that they give. And the nature of this project, the most important thing about it, I think, is that it is very, very collaborative, and everybody that is involved has a say and a role in the process. And in this case, it's been Household, Sailortown Regeneration, Queen's through the StreetSpace project, Belfast City Council, Department for Communities, but we also have other people involved in processes of the project, of the StreetSpace project, like the UAH, SafeCQ, Sustrans, architecture offices like Arrigo Larmor Wheeler. We're also been working with MMAS and with OGU Architects and with IDER in trying to kind of figure out streets and also work especially with government to come up with ways of dealing with them. One of the main principles of the project is the idea of gentle density, of densities that can actually encourage the human use of streets and not so much the getting from A to B of cars. And also, it's not just public participation in terms of consultation, but it's about a creative public participation and using tools that we know as designers and different ways of understanding places that are experimental and creative. And in particular, in the studio, we do this through drawing, and these are just some examples of things that we've done in other years, such as the drawing of people walking through Ryder Square, the products sold in North Street, the uses of the ground floors of the whole city centre in Belfast, and the facades of Botanic Avenue. And then we also have to deal with this Belfast will to forget, that I have the very strong sense that it influences this tendency to demolition that has been very present in Belfast for the past 50 years, and how to deal with that, and how to keep the memories and not kind of continue with that sense that anything new will be better. And again, this is not nostalgia. It's about kind of trying to figure out which are the things of the past that we can use, that can be useful for the future. And Sailortown is a really good example of that. This is Sailortown in 1963, the picture that Terry also showed, and thanks Declan again for this. It's an incredible drone picture, and what's more striking about this is the vacancy, the empty spaces, and the potential of those spaces to become something much better than what they are today. And then our sense in the StreetSpace project, in the collaboration, especially with Sailortown Regeneration and Household, is that the future cannot be these 30-story towers. It cannot be just for housing people that are going to be there temporarily and are not going to really create a sense of home or a sense of place. And we also have to deal with the very real pressure of the climate emergency. So the students worked for a year in terms of collaboration with regeneration, with anthropology, trying to figure out GIS and 3D mapping, and trying to come up with these outputs, an alternative proposal for Sailortown, a website, an online symposium that we're in right now, and an interdisciplinary workshop that was meant to happen in June 2020, but will happen in June 2021. So the way around this, I'm just going to talk to you very briefly about some of the things that we looked at through the projects. And as Terry well said, Billy's stories are just fascinating and hilarious. And I'm going to just show you some of the quotes that come from the very kind of caring relationship that the students developed with some of the Sailortown residents, whether they lived there before or they live there now. And this is the story, one of Billy's stories, and it's called Breaking and Entering. And please excuse my accent because I'm not going to be able to do anything close to what it is in reality. But the story, so Billy said, the people that lived in there were called English, and their only son, David, he was called the Red Devil. So he comes back to the house one night, and he couldn't get in front door. So he comes around and goes along and goes in, and he makes an attempt to climb over the yard wall. Now, comes straight across to the house in Quinn's Place. The woman that lived in there was called Maggie Downey. She still had the owl gas lamps and all, but anyway, Davy English attempts to climb over the wall to get into his mummy's house. Maggie Downey sees him, opens her window, her bedroom window, and she shouts, "Mrs. English, the IRA is trying to get over your yard wall." So Davy turned around and said, "Shut up, you stupid old tucker, you," and fell off the yard wall. So that was really the talk the next day, you know, the camaraderie around Sailortown. That's only one of the wonderful stories of Billy in the book that Ashlee put together. Then there's the story of Marie. She said, "I would come back here tomorrow if the houses are built, but I have a home of my own. I don't need it, but a lot of people out there do need it, and that's the people you need to keep fighting for it," said Marie. Ludwig's story is a very long story about getting lost trying to find the Rotterdam bar, but he said, "It has been standing proud on the waterfront of Belfast since 1827 in Pilot Street, right smack bang in the middle of Sailortown. There is evidence in the form of manacles attached to the upstairs wall that the building was once used as a holding station for convicts as they were being escorted to whatever big ship was taking them away to prison in Australia for stealing or descent or whatever. The place was also reportedly used as a bordello during the early 1900s when it was run as a hostel with 12 bedrooms by Alice Kelly." All of these stories are in the website, and I'll give you the link. I already posted it on the chat. Then there's Pam's story, which was fascinating, and Aisha, Hannah, and other of the students had some conversations with Pam. Pam said, "A mother was at home with her feet under the sink. Why do you think the men were at the pub every night?" And Aisha did some wonderful drawings of the everyday life of women in the houses of Sailortown. The Dockers is one of the stories that Johnny was looking at, and he says that our perception of life in the docks greatly contrasts to the actual reality of the life of the docks. Working shifts from 8 a.m. to midnight were just normal working hours for the dockers. However, before the work begins, not all dockers were guaranteed a job for the day. The dockers lined up every morning, and they called it schooling. They were pick out you, and you. Then they all had to be at the gate. The boss was picking them. It would be on a whim. He decided, "Yes, I like your face. No, I don't like yours. I don't like red hair, so you're not getting a job." It was selected at random, and numbers would vary depending on the amount of work and ships to be discharged that day. Those who did not get a job that day would either just leave or go to the pub. There was never any quarrels and conflicts had they not got the job. Dockers who got the job would receive a metal check, and it was a moment which got them thrilled for the day. Then we have the story of Jared's father, who had a cart, an ice cream cart, and went through different parts of the city and changed the flags from the tricolour to the Union Jack, depending on the neighborhoods he was visiting. But other things came out of those stories. The idea of what happened with people with the building of the motorway and how that displacement very deeply changed the life of people as they were moved to other parts of the city. We discussed cycling and how much cycling could benefit not only Sailortown, but moving around the city. We also talked about accessibility and how difficult it is to get to some places from Sailortown because of the motorway. One of the very fascinating studies was done by Hannah in terms of ownership of the different houses of Sailortown and where women were actually owning the places, the houses of Sailortown on Corporation Street and Great Georgia Street. We also visited Lisbon, and speaking of gentle density, that was one of the things that we were looking at, and Jing made this lovely sketches of Lisbon. But mainly what we did was developed a spatial strategy that would have different projects within the area of Sailortown that would deal with all of the issues that we identified in the first semester. So Johnny designed the cycling village in front of the church to enable for people to have their bicycles and move around the city. Ashlee developed plots for living and working, which is a very good example of gentle density, and a gentle density that would be applied to the way that people would like to live in Belfast, with a lot of open private space and green space within the development, and relatively low rise, but very connected to the street. Lorna developed StreetSpace as the third teacher. That was a primary school. And we had a series of canals that run along Sailortown to deal with the potential floods. And Tiernan designed the Sailortown baths, which were supposed to welcome all kinds of different people to them. Juliette came up with the brief of a ceramics factory in Sailortown that would not only give work to local people, but would also encourage a trade that has been traditionally very common in Belfast. John was proposed a series of housing also that is connected to the river, and that would encourage not only the life in front of the river, but also with a market inside that would sell local produce. Sitong proposed a storytelling center because we identified all the incredible wealth of stories of Sailortown. Nihal, Sailortown, the Sailortown Public Library. Aisha, Women's Shelter, and all of these things can be discussed further within the groups. So I'm not going to give a lot of detail about these, but it's the idea that things like a cultural center with special activities for children and living different ways of providing housing and co-living and co-housing that would be suitable for Sailortown. The Sailortown Brewery by Kieran, that again, a bit like the pottery and tile factory, would encourage work in the area. Hannah's Dance Therapy Center that you'll be able to discuss in the culture group, and Mariana's Workshop and Bazaar as a place for trade and production too. The other thing we produced is our 3D maps of Sailortown that you'll be able to navigate, and that will come up in an app in the future, and we're still developing that at the moment. But in the meantime, there is the website which you will be able to access, and Sean Greer and Stephen Coyle have been working on this very hard for the past months, and you will be able to access all of these projects in detail. So I'm going to just leave this part of the presentation. And thank you all very much, and sorry about taking a bit more time than planned. And can I please ask one person from every group to talk for 1 minute, 1 minute and a half about the stuff that you discussed in your group. And these are going to be triggers for the things that we're going to be discussing eventually in June. So can I please ask somebody from the housing group to just a volunteer? And if there's no volunteer, I'm going to ask someone.
I'm happy to.
Please go ahead, Ashlee.
Yeah, well, we had really kind of interesting conversations about housing and new ways of doing housing in the city. Talking about like whether keeping the community mixed and have new housing modules, looking at co-housing groups and cooperatives, to like the tiny living model, and looking into different ways of kind of doing procurement to Mal reference the community wealth building model. So trying to keep instead of projects just going out to tender for the cheapest builder, trying to keep it all kind of local skills. Yeah, and then looking at ways of kind of reconnecting Cedartown back to the rest of the city, and talking about how the city often just focuses on kind of attracting people into the city without kind of focusing on the people who actually live there. And yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Ashlee. And I think that's something that's going to come back to us, and the news that the housing executive has actually decided to start building houses again is very, it could make us very hopeful, and we just hope that it's done the right way and that there's actual appropriate investment for that. So we'll see how that pans out. But thank you so much for the group of housing, and we'll come back to that in June in terms of more pragmatic ways of addressing that, and we'll keep on working on that through the year to come back to wider discussions about that in June. So the group of children, please, can someone, if someone wants to volunteer to speak about that group?
I will, if that's okay. Or
of course, Lorna. Yeah.
From Margaret, want to, or yeah, okay.
Go for it.
Sorry, someone else want to? No, okay. So basically what we touched on was really about accessibility to Sailortown and how can we make it family and children friendly, because it's really not a place that is friendly to families or children alike. And what we touched on a lot was that, you know, throughout parts of Sailortown, it's very private. There's a lot of corporate buildings, government buildings, and there's a sense that when you're walking through it that, you know, you shouldn't be in certain places. So we were thinking about ways to intervene, and not only with, you know, a school or, you know, a playground, but how can smaller interventions be applied? A couple of people in our group suggested things like, you know, maybe small parts of play throughout the Sailortown rather than just one designated playground. You know, small things like plantation, you know, little skateboard ramps, things like that can be implemented throughout Sailortown to, you know, make it child friendly, because at the end of the day, if we want to encourage families to reside there, then these small interventions do need to be thought about. And yeah, that's really what we were chatting about.
Thank you, Lorna. That's really great. And that's something that in a workshop can be really kind of easy to develop, to start identifying places in which that can happen, in which some of those smaller interventions could eventually happen. And look, we know from experience, some of us, that doing a very small intervention can be very hard and can require a lot of work. But if the right people and the right energy is in, I mean, we saw that happening in the project that we were working on in the Parklet with Department for Infrastructure and Belfast City Council and MMS and OGO and Belfast Building Trust, and how that actually, how that we managed to actually do it, which we were all very happy about. But that's something that will be very good for the June workshop. So can I ask somebody from Public Space? Public Space and Mobility. It doesn't have to be Johnny, but if Johnny wants to come back with that discussion. Someone from Public Space there?
I can do it if you want.
Great.
I was on mute, sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Johnny.
No, you go. I don't mind, honestly. You can go for it as well if you want.
Please. Yes.
Okay.
Put your camera on, please, Jane.
So we spoke about obviously Johnny's proposal, and which is the cycling workshop, the cycling building within the area. As we know, there is quite a lot of cyclists that come and go through the area themselves, and even more so now, as Terry mentioned, because of lockdown and just a lot more footfall, which then also means a lot of cyclists as well. We talked about, and Callie mentioned bringing up possibly of Johnny's project kind of initiated in phases. So maybe some interventional work in terms of setting up maybe some docking stations where you could access pumps or repair kits for people coming through on the bike. We also talked about including organisations like Loveworks Cooperative to come down to the area to maybe carry out some workshops with young people, looking at repairing bicycles, but also the fact that they run a cafe as well, and again building up like some kind of participatory events there. Callie also brought up about whether we should have Belfast officials bike stocking down there, but also What Johnny mentioned was that we don't actually have access to proper cycle lanes down there, so that would be a bit of an issue. Yeah, if I'm missing anything, feel free to jump in, Johnny, or anyone else is there.
That's great, Jane. I think that's again, I think we're going on a line of how these proposals of the students were like large developments that need a lot of investment, but how from those ideas developed in those large projects, you can take out small interventions that can be much more easily implemented. So I think, yeah.
Sorry, there was one more thing that Terry mentioned. Terry, the play. I'm bad at repeating what you'd say, but Emily had mentioned a play by your friend Terry that has a connection with the area, but he was interested in bicycles, and it'd be nice to even have like a live performance of that in like Barra Square, and like having these events, like cultural events, also connecting to like the kind of commenting on these more infrastructure-led conversations around the area. So having these connections between, yeah, you can see that that'd be a nice progress there. Sorry, Terry.
Absolutely, that's great, Jane.
It's a Stuart Parker play, okay, and it's about a man who was totally against the building of the motorway, and Stuart Parker wrote a play about it.
That's great, Terry. Thank you very much. So we've done children, we've done housing, we've done public space. Can we have somebody from the work and industry come back from that group? It can be Juliet, but it doesn't have to. I think Juliet had to leave. John, do you want to speak about what you discussed in the work group?
Hi, I'm here.
You're there.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know if anyone else was going to talk.
Go ahead. So if you want to summarize.
Yeah, I think we've just been talking about work in Cedartown, and essentially how a successful way of bringing work back to Cedartown would be looking at industries that people can actually get involved in, and maybe ways of working which are local and would bring money back into the area, as opposed to the offices of the big companies which are there at the moment. So like you said, in June, I think it'll be interesting to see what, especially because I think working at the moment, particularly like say the work, like say whenever we were making our projects, there was no coronavirus, so maybe the way we approach working now is quite different, and who knows what it'll be like in June as well, so yeah. Quite topical.
Great, thank you very much, Juliet. And to finish up, and it's 4 already, and we're going to try to wrap up, but the culture group, can someone from the culture group please summarize?
Should I? So,
yes, Sean, please, go ahead.
Yeah. Hannah, maybe it's an opportunity for Hannah to talk about her project, so I hope I haven't jumped in there.
Sorry, Hannah is actually away off to university and things, so Hannah, yeah. No problem.
We just talked about, we focused on Hannah's project really, and we talked about how it was, you know, a really great idea, of a space that isn't so rigid in its use and would be of real benefit to the area, and that, you know, she described it as being built in such a way where it might feel almost quite temporary and very open, so that people could feel very much like they could access a space that was intended for fairly informal gatherings or for a cultural space or for events, you know, and we sort of discussed how an idea like that would be really relevant and beneficial to the area, you know. We also spoke with one of the members of the group, was Billy, and he talked about what sounds like some fairly important archive materials that he has there that we think could be of real use, and, you know, would almost be great to sort of continue that conversation and get talking to him some more. He mentioned having some great footage of a particular local poet who wrote quite particularly about the area. You know, he's got some great footage there that would be important to access, I think.
That's brilliant stuff, Sean. I think, yeah, I wish I could have been in all the groups at the same time. I just went like taking a look at what everybody was doing. And anyway, thank you all so very much for joining us today. I would really like to thank Terry and Household, because it's so brilliant to be able to work with people that are so positive and so energetic and so full of life and actually good ideas and goodwill for developing Belfast, but especially Sailortown. And the students have been completely fantastic, and I'm in awe that they're still trying to be part of StreetSpace once they've left the studio, which is really it's a really positive thing to know that StreetSpace is not just a thing that sits in academia, but that goes beyond and tries to engage with all different people. I have to thank the funders, Department for Communities, that have been believing in StreetSpace for the last 3 years, and that is amazing. And also the support from Belfast City Council in all the people that have been involved from the Regeneration Department, Callie particularly, but Alice and everybody else that has been joining us in the past time. Terry, please go ahead. Microphone.
Yeah, can I just introduce you to Declan? This is my glamorous assistant who helped me set up everything yesterday. Hello. He's just finished work there, and Declan is just lives up the street, and he was the one that took that fantastic picture of the motorway. You know, that one with the ring road. So Absolutely. Thank you, Declan.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Good to meet you, Declan. Hope to meet you. The bottom line from this, guys, is that this is really exciting, and I'm really hoping to meet you all in June in person with no COVID, and we can have a meal done hosted by a household, and it will really, you know, fingers crossed. And even if there's still COVID, we are going to do the June workshop outdoors. So we're counting on that. And thank you all so very, very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to work with all of you. And thank you so much for all the participants of the symposium. And I really, really hope to see you all there in June.
Well done, Agustina. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.